Well, today the Correctional Services Commissioner visited convicted rapist and murderer Thabo Bester at Pretoria's Kgosi Mampuru prison. Earlier, he saw Bester's alleged accomplice, Dr. Magudumana, at the Kroonstad prison. Linda Mnisi has been tracking the story for us. He joins us in studio. Linda, quite peculiar what has happened here today. I can't recall an incident, at least in recent history, where we have the Commissioner of Correctional Services block out a day to go and visit inmates, at least just specific inmates. What was the reason behind all of this?
What the Commissioner told us was that this is part of his routine of, doing an oversight, essentially, of these facilities, particularly, in these units, the CMAX units, where, sometimes it's high-profile inmates that are kept, or even some that have committed, the worst crimes in the country. So he sees this as just an oversight visit. Of course, it's quite strange, and it raises an eyebrow, particularly because what he did was specifically, at least where I was, he went straight to Thabo Bester's cell. And what's interesting about today's visit, Kathy, is that, both Dr. Magudumana and Thabo Bester refused to have the media film them. Of course, they can exercise their own discretion as to whether they want cameras or not in the prison cell. While, the Commissioner says members of the media can access correctional facilities, inmates still have a right to say whether or not they want to be seen. Similar to with visits, they have a choice of whether or not they want to accept a visitor in prison. And what's quite interesting about what happened during this visit, because I specifically asked him about consent, whether Thabo Bester had consented to having media right at his cell, and whether he wanted to be filmed. And as he was speaking about this, I asked him a question particularly about this consent issue, and whether he knew that we were coming and that he consented to us having cameras at his door. Thabo Bester then started screaming from inside the prison cell. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
So there's no need for me to ask him for permission to come and do my work. But if you want to interview him, we then have to ask for that permission.
Commissioner, if you could just look, Linda, incredibly curious that this is what happened. So when you arrived at the prison, you were then taken through to the cells. Were there other inmates that you walked past as you were navigating your way through Kgosi Mampuru?
Absolutely not, Kathy. We were taken to that particular unit where, of course, we were escorted by other prison officials who then, walked with us through these electronic doors. It's really a high security unit where only electronic doors are used. So we were navigating through these electronic doors, and we got to his prison cell. I mean, we even caught a glimpse of him inside that prison cell. They're saying that they're doing this because there has been speculation and rumors that they're getting preferential treatment. So essentially it was also...
So what's the point to show the South African public that Thabo Bester is in fact in prison and not receiving special treatment?
Yes, absolutely. To show that, Thabo Bester as well as Dr. Magudumana are in prison and not getting preferential treatment. So, like I said, we caught a glimpse of his prison cell, and the inside of his prison cell, we actually saw him sitting there reading a book with some books scattered all over his bed. But immediately when he saw that people were looking into the prison cell, then he started hiding. And then from there, we couldn't really see. We could only just see his hands where he was holding that particular book, which shows you essentially that he didn't want, members of other people at least, to see him. But we asked him after his interaction with Thabo Bester around the torture that he speaks about there in that particular bite, where he screams that, but with, torture, you don't ask for permission. When you torture people, you don't ask for permission. Did he raise those issues around torture? And this is what the Commissioner had to say.
No, he didn't raise the torture issue with me. He doesn't look like somebody that has been tortured. My understanding is that
the environment itself is the one that he is not happy about. But this is for his own security.
What about the environment?
The isolation space that you see here, the highly secured space that you see. But as I've indicated, this is for his security also.
The difficulty here is that if the point is to prove against the allegations of special treatment, nothing about today suggests that Thabo Bester would not be receiving special treatment before and after the media has gone. So I wonder then how the Correctional Services Department felt a visit of this nature would in fact answer that question. And I would imagine that with the other facility that you visited as well, which is where Magudumana is, that for people around, there'd be an element of surprise to see, again, the access that's been granted to the media, the visit that is taking place in the glare of the public.
Yeah, especially because those questions, Kathy, were particularly put to the Commissioner around where exactly Dr. Magudumana was kept. You'll remember there's a media contingent that went to the Bizamakate Correctional Facility where Nandipa is being kept. And what he's telling us is that, she's kept at a hospital wing of the facility, and that's because the matter is still under investigation, and because, of course, of security reasons, there are quite a number of other remand detainees that are there. She's not getting preferential treatment. She's eating the same food that other inmates are eating and following the same procedure that other inmates are following. So essentially trying to say that, well, there's nothing peculiar about her being kept at a prison, at a hospital wing of that particular prison. And one of the things that was asked was why that wing? Is that where all the remand detainees are being kept? And he said, well, because of the high-profile nature of this prison, that's one of the reasons that also she is being kept there, against also to look out for, her own security, and that she does not self-harm during the process of staying in prison. One then wonders if, other inmates are not being guarded or looked after the same way so that they also do not self-harm.
All right, Linda Mnisi, we'll have to wait and see if the story makes its way into the actual courtroom and this case that, of course, is still underway concerning Thabo Bester and Dr. Magudumana.